I rent a small, weathered farmhouse at the end of a long gravel ribbon that used to be a road. Out here, the horizon feels closer than people do. The mailbox leans like it's tired of being found, and the wind moves in from the fields with a low hush, the kind that makes tall grass bow like it's listening. When night drops, it doesn't dim, it erases. The world turns to charcoal and cricket song, and the only light is what you make yourself. That Saturday, late in summer, my parents called from 2 towns over to say they'd stay the night with my aunt after an early birthday dinner. They reminded me to lock the doors twice, to keep my phone on me, to call if the weather turned. I told them I was 21, not a kid, and then promised anyway because promises make parents breathe easier. By sundown, the sky had gone orange to bruised purple, the treeline sharpening into a black saw blade along the back acres. Inside, the den glowed blue from the TV. Daisy, my mutt with a storm cloud coat, snored against my leg while my thumbs smudged the controller. Empty soda cans clinked when I shifted. The ceiling fan ticked. Online chatter filled my headset until the last match ended and I slid the headphones off. Silence rose up at once. It felt heavier than it should, like the room inhaled and refused to exhale. Then 3 knocks at the front door. Even, measured, polite. My spine went straight. Nobody drives out here without texting first. Not at 10. Not ever. I stood in the entry, keeping the chain latched, and angled my eye to the narrow frosted pane. A man stood on the porch, mid-30s, neat hair, gray polo, jeans. He wasn't sweating, and he didn't look drunk or lost, just ready. He lifted his phone slightly when he noticed me watching and gave a small, practiced smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Sorry to bother you so late," he said through the door. "Did your dog get out?" I found a brown lab near the main road. Daisy lifted her head, ears spearing forward, a soft growl deep in her throat. Kept my voice low. "We don't have a lab," I said. "I don't have that dog." He tipped his head, smile staying where it was, eyes narrowing a fraction like he was deciding which drawer to open next. "You sure? Friendly thing might have followed you home. These places all look the same at night." "Not mine," I said. He didn't move. He didn't apologize and step back. He asked my name like it mattered, asked where the nearest neighbor was, who owned the red barn at the curve. Harmless questions wearing casual voices, except that nothing felt harmless. "My folks will be back any second," I lied, hand tight on the chain. The smile thinned. It didn't vanish, just shrunk, like he was putting something away for later. He slid the phone into his pocket, nodded once, and turned. I watched him walk down the porch steps and disappear along the driveway until the night took him whole. I kept watching after he was gone, just in case the dark had learned a new trick. I waited with my ear pressed to the door, listening to the field's hush. Nothing but crickets and a single owl far off toward the creek. When my lungs finally remembered their job, I texted my mom. Some guy asked about a lost dog. She sent a laughing emoji, country neighbor stuff, and told me to sleep. I said I would. I didn't. I checked the deadbolts again, then the windows, then every room like I was counting them. Daisy tracked me heel to heel, head low, tail stiff. I left the hall light on and the bedroom lamp too. And somewhere around 2, I dozed in that not sleep where every sound arrives wearing teeth. Morning unpicked the shadows with a gray seam along the curtains. I made coffee I didn't want and stood at the sink, staring through the glass over the deep sink and out to the yard. That's when I saw it. One of Mom's old cast iron birds. She loved those heavy little statues, had shifted. She used to line them along the fence like sentries looking out. Now one sat 3 feet closer to the porch, angled in, as if watching the house, not the fields. Wind does strange things out here. It slides a trash bin and slaps an unlatched gate, and sometimes it drags a kiddie pool across half an acre like a blue coin. But the bird was heavy enough to anchor a tarp. I went out anyway, told myself there'd be an obvious answer, and lifted it back to the fence where it belonged. The base left a clean round in the grass, damp and darker than the rest, like a thumbprint on the yard. 2 days later, just before dusk, it had moved again. Same bird. Closer. The grass beneath wasn't scuffed like a kick would do. It was pressed flat, clean, like something had been set down with care. I brought all 3 birds inside and shut them in the pantry. Door latched. Beat, where the wind couldn't touch them, where nothing should. My younger sister Emily came to stay that weekend. 16, with a soft voice and that careful way of walking grief gives you. We ate late, watched an old action movie that hadn't aged well, and made fun of the dialogue until we were laughing for real. At 11, she yawned, hugged Daisy goodnight, and padded down the hall. I stayed up long enough to brush my teeth. Halfway through, I heard my name rip the air. Alex. Not a question, not a call. A snap. The toothbrush clattered into the sink. I ran, soap still on my hands. Emily was sitting up in bed with the blanket bunched at her chin. The little nightlight spun weak blue stars across her ceiling and made her face look pale and glassy. She didn't scream again. She just lifted a shaking hand and pointed toward the shadow under the bed. "There's someone under there," she whispered. I saw his face. It was wrong. I flipped the overhead light. The room jumped to yellow. Posters, desk, laundry pile, everything loud and normal. I crouched and lifted the quilt edge. The gap beneath the frame was a rectangle of pure black. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. If there had been a face there, it had learned to be still very fast. "See," I said, making my voice walk on steady legs. Empty. She didn't believe me. You can see belief harden or melt in a person's eyes. I sat against the wall beside her bed with my phone in my lap and the bat. Aluminum, scuffed. Leaning within reach. The fan made a slow click. The stars on the ceiling kept spinning. Minute by minute, her shoulders loosened. When her breath finally found that soft, even rhythm, I let the room exhale too. At 12:40 a.m., I eased into my own room, shoes still on, bat propped near the door. The house had that midnight sound. A low, pooled quiet with tiny noises floating on top. A mouse in a wall. The water heater's soft throat. Trees talking to one another in the wind. I let my eyes close. A thump from Emily's room opened them again. Not the crisp sound of something falling. A dragging sound came next, like cloth over wood. A slow scrape that lasted one heartbeat too long. I took the bat. The hall felt colder than it had any right to be. My breath leaving small ghosts in the spill of light from her door. Inside, she slept on her side, face turned toward the window, mouth parted the way kids do when they finally surrender to sleep. I crouched, lifted the quilt edge. Long pause. At first, I thought the noise was inside my head, the rush of blood, the ringing of nerves. Then I heard it again. Not mine, not the house, not pipes, a breath, faint. Close. I didn't shout. I didn't swing. I didn't rip the bed up like the movies teach you to do. Some animal part of me understood that waking her to fear and motion would tilt the room into chaos. I backed into the doorway, legs trembling, and sat with my back to the hall wall and the bat across my knees. Daisy crept to my side and lay down without being asked. Head on my ankle, eyes on the dark. We stayed like that until the black outside paled to dull blue. The kind of light that doesn't brighten so much as erase the dark's edges. I stood up on pins and needles' legs and lifted the bed with Mom's old grunt, bracing the frame. Nothing. No shoes displaced. No storage bins pushed aside. No person. Just floorboards. And on those boards, streaks. Thick, dark earth smudged like finger paint. Bits of pale gravel. 2 needles from a pine. The smell of wet leaves you only get under trees after a storm. The kind that turns paths to slick, black ropes. I didn't tell Emily what I heard. I told her a raccoon might have got in the crawl space and knocked dust around. I told her everything except the truth. That someone had been inches from her face while she slept, breathing carefully as if trying not to be found. I changed the sheet and vacuumed and opened the window for air that didn't help. After breakfast, I walked the perimeter. The grass was heavy with dew, and my shoes drank it. The back fence was old but intact. The crawlspace hatch was shut. The pantry door, where the cast-iron birds slept, was latched. I touched it anyway, just to feel the latch give me something solid. We left that afternoon to stay with family in town for a week. I told myself breaks fix houses the way they fix arguments. You step away, let the echo of it die, and when you come back the air is different. When we returned, the farmhouse smelled like dust and sun-baked wood. The first day back was uneventful. Laundry, groceries, a casserole from Mom's friend wrapped in foil with heat at 375 scrawled in Sharpie. Closed doors, open windows. You talk to a house when you do that. You say, "We're here. You can be normal now." A bright September afternoon let me off work early. Emily was still at school. Mom was chasing errands across 2 counties. The place was quiet in that clean way after you've aired it out. I used the bathroom, door open, habit now, and let the cold water run over my hands. Then I heard her voice. "Sweetheart," not through a phone, not from a TV, came from just outside the bathroom door. The exact tone Mom uses when she finds a good tomato at the market and wants me to see it. Casual and close. I turned off the faucet and listened with my whole body. Water ticked in the sink. Pipes settled somewhere in the walls like old bones. Daisy's collar jingled once from the living room and went still. I stepped into the hallway. Empty. Sun poured in through the west windows and laid bright bands across the runner. The air had that feeling you can't prove, disturbed. Like a held breath after a joke you're not sure you're allowed to laugh at. Daisy stood at the far end of the hall with her ears pinned and her eyes fixed not on me but on the square of the attic hatch above us. "Mom!" I tried, soft. The word soaked into the house and didn't come back. I checked every room the way you check the time on a clock you don't trust, twice. Bedroom, closet, under bed, behind shower curtain. The storage room with boxes labeled Christmas, old school stuff, Dad's tools. The pantry, latch still hooked. 3 cast iron birds heavy on the shelf where I left them. Everything in its place. The wrongness remained. I didn't nap. I didn't sit. I waited out the rest of the afternoon in the den with all the lights on and Daisy pressed so close her ribs moved against my calf. When night came, I didn't turn anything off. Lamps, hall, kitchen, even the porch light, a small weak moon on the stoop. I told myself brightness makes ceilings honest. At 2:03 a.m., the house woke me with a sound that doesn't belong to houses. Not a scurry or a rattle. Footsteps, measured and careful, moved directly above my head across the attic's dusty boards. 3, then 2, then a pause long enough to count all my teeth with my tongue. Then another. I didn't go up the ladder. I'm not the kind of hero that ignores gravity and common sense at once. I sat very still and watched the ceiling and counted the slow steps until they faded into a stillness so complete it made my ears ring. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and stopped. One of the cast iron birds from the pantry sat on the porch rail, facing the fields. The pantry door was shut. The latch was hooked. The shelf inside was missing a weight I hadn't removed. I opened the pantry slowly, like noise could make it worse. 2 birds on the shelf. 1 small round dust ring where the third had been. The kind of ring you get when something heavy sits so long the shelf forgets its original color. That was it. Houses sometimes have mice. They don't have men in the attic that return stolen metal birds to the sunrise. I woke Emily with a whisper and a hand on her shoulder that shook more than I wanted it to. We packed in under 10 minutes. Charger, toothbrush, a pair of jeans grabbed wrong side out, and I texted Mom we're leaving. "Don't come alone," she called, but I didn't pick up because phones are loud and doors are louder and I wanted the house to hear neither. We loaded the car under a sky trying to decide if it would rain. The fields shivered with wind. The Trilene watched. There's a speed you reach on gravel where fear and traction argue. I hit it and didn't slow until pavement took over the conversation. We never slept there again. We stayed with family for a month, then listed the place. A couple from the city loved the porch, the privacy, the way the stars looked punched into the sky. I handed over the keys and told them about the well pump and the stubborn screen on the back door. I told them how the wind stacks leaves against the north fence. I told them everything except the three things that mattered. I didn't tell them about the polite man with the wrong questions. I didn't tell them about the quiet breath beneath my sister's bed. I didn't tell them about the voice outside the bathroom that sounded exactly like my mother. We moved into town, and the first night there I slept with the lamp off. The second, I didn't. Habits don't break. They loosen slowly, like knots in wet rope. Weeks turned to a season, and if anyone asked, I said the place was too much maintenance for one person. That was true, just not the correct truth. Sometimes, in the middle of doing nothing at all, I smell cold dirt in clean rooms. Not strong, just a thread, a reminder. I still think about the marks under Emily's bed, the careful streaks of earth like someone didn't want to leave a mess. Only proof. I think about the cast iron bird traveling from a latched pantry to a porch rail to look at fields it never looked at before. I also think about the pauses, how the man at the door waited between questions, how the scrape in Emily's room rested between movements, how the footsteps in the attic measured themselves out like a metronome and then stopped when I began to count them. We sold the house in dry weather, the kind that makes the road throw up pale dust that sticks to the back window in ghostly handprints. Emily laughed more at Grandma's place. Mom switched to day shifts. Daisy learned to sleep without her head on my ankle. I didn't go back for the final walkthrough. My mother did. She signed the papers and dropped the keys into someone else's palm and told me it felt like setting down a box you've been carrying longer than your arms admit. On her way out, she looked back through the screen. The new buyers had already propped it open and said the porch looked good in morning light. I believed her. Houses look honest when they change owners, as if they're promising to try again. We live in a place with neighbors now. I can see 2 porch lights from our kitchen window and I know both names that go with them. Still, sometimes in bright afternoon, with the radio low and the dog asleep, a voice will move through a doorway that no one is standing in. Sweetheart? It says exactly right, exactly wrong. I freeze, count my teeth with my tongue, and wait until the house is ordinary again. Then I leave the room, even if I have to come back later to finish what I was doing. Because once you've heard your name spoken by someone who cannot be there, you never again feel entirely alone in any quiet place.